Welcome, everybody. It is Tuesday, September 19th. We are fresh off of NFL Week 2. And what I'm going to do here is go through what I think are the NFL's biggest winners and losers from this past weekend. I have 6 teams that I want to cover today. Got some exciting stuff to talk about and some not so exciting stuff for those teams who I consider losers. But nonetheless, a lot to talk about before we dive in. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe, and then also drop some week 3 predictions that you have or teams that you think that I missed who are big winners and losers. I love scanning the crowd for that stuff. You know, you can't cover everything, but I sure do like to hear from you guys. Also, if you are watching this type of video and you are into sports betting or team predictions, we have a show that goes over NFL Week 3 picks and predictions. Doesn't go over all the games, but some of the more exciting games that we like to take picks on. We go over our projections and model picks and whatnot. So some fun stuff there. Lots of exciting stuff. All right, let's just dive right into it. Loser, Chicago Bears. I apologize to all of you Bears fans, but I know that you are going through it right now. Justin Fields looks awful. I'm just not going to put it any other way. It looks like he is even worse than he was last year at the start of the year. And it's crazy to say because the hype for him this offseason was, I bought into it a little bit, you know? I didn't think his passing game would be fixed necessarily, but I thought he would surely improve. And I thought that the Bears, you know, they had such a good opportunity this year with their division being so wide open. I mean, you know, if you watch the show in the summer, we predicted the Vikings to be under their win total at 9.5. We predicted the Bears to not struggle, but I mean, I just thought that this would be a wide open division. You know, the Lions are the Lions. I think they are the clear favorite, but the last time, I mean, it's just, you know, they hardly ever win. So the Bears are fumbling a great opportunity at this point, and it's all on Fields. And maybe that's not fair. It's all in the coaching and on Fields. But we knew the defense was going to be bad. We said that in our offseason show. We knew that, but we expected the offense to carry the load with added weapons and with Justin Fields supposedly taking the next step, but it's not looking like that. Both the running game and the passing game is bad, whereas last year the running game was a top tier running game. You know, the passing game was not there. We knew Fields struggled in that area, but right now, as it stands, they are 25th overall in rushing EPA margin and 28th overall in passing EPA margin. That's not going to cut it for a team whose defense is atrocious. They are bottom third in EPA allowed, and they are 31st overall in yards per pass completion allowed and yards per carry allowed. This team has really hit rock bottom. I mean, this is tough. And I feel bad for those Bear fans who are so excited because they finally had a Aaron Rodgers-less Packers in the division. They had a Vikings team that was, you know, their defense was going to struggle. They had a chance. They had every chance, and they still do, but it's bleak because if we look at their next 6 games, they go to the Chiefs, they play the Broncos at home, they go to Washington and play the Commanders, they play the Vikings at home, they play the Raiders at home, and they play at the Chargers. And I got to be frank with you, if you're a Bears fan, our projections have them winning none of those. So I think that the Bears are in a bad spot right now. I think they are the biggest loser for me coming out of week 2 because there's nothing excited to be about this with this team. There's no, you know, I'm not looking at a area where this team like can build upon. There's, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. They were my biggest loser out of week 2. They should not have lost to a Baker Mayfield-led Bucs. Although the Bucs look good, you know, the Bears should not lose to that team. So easy as that. I feel like Justin Fields is having a mental battle right now. He takes forever to process plays in the pocket. It almost feels like he is at this point where he has rushed it so much that it's become his like first nature to want to take off and run with it. He looks like he forgot how to process plays mid play. This is not a good look for a guy who was such a strong passer coming out of Ohio State. This is not good. I was really expecting him to build on that success that he had out of college, but again, biggest loser for me is Chicago Bears. It's looking bleak. I'm not too excited about this team. Again, I apologize, Bears fans. Commanders, biggest winner for me out of week 2, and I know there was a lot of teams that I could have put here, and so the reason I put the Commanders here is because they have started 2-0. The offense looks legitimate, and people forget that Broncos defense is a top tier defense in the league. And the fact that Sam Howell just hung 35 on this team is extremely promising. And if I was a Washington Commanders fan, I would be over the moon right now, because I feel like the culture change and the personnel change has been nothing but, great for this team. So Sam Howell is that dude. And I think he's proven that against the Broncos defense. Now, the Cardinals, they struggled a little bit, but hopefully they were just shaking off some rust. I feel like this NFL Week 2 win against the Broncos really kind of solidified that the Commanders are going to be good. Sam Howell has this team rolling. They are 11th overall in total passing yards per game right now, 7th overall in points per game, and 6th overall in pass rate over expectation. Who would have thought that the Washington Commanders would be a team that are slinging the ball more than the majority of the league? I never did, especially with Sam Howell, but they certainly trust him. Eric Bieniemy seems like a extremely solid addition to this staff. There was a lot of question marks with him coming out of the Chiefs, but I feel like he has proven himself nonetheless. We still will see how his performance is in that division. Quite frankly, it's going to be a tough division. The Eagles, the Cowboys, the Giants. I mean, the Giants don't look as good as what I anticipated coming into the season. So the Commanders have a chance to get that number 3 spot and potentially number 2 spot. I don't know. I don't see him beating out the Giants or the Eagles, but the Cowboys or the Eagles. But I certainly can see him taking over that 3rd spot over the Giants. But in their defense, the defense is really good too. Despite a ton of points being allowed versus the Broncos in week 2, they are still 12th overall in EPA allowed and 13th overall in total yards allowed. And just to highlight those stats, to still show that they have a solid defense, especially with Chase Young back in the mix. I mean, that dude just makes such a difference. His presence on the field, it just elevates that entire defensive line because he demands attention from the offensive line and sometimes double team. So it opens up so much more on the defensive side of the ball. The Commanders really have something special going on. If this is not the year, certainly in the next couple of years with this young core, they can really make a splash in the league. So biggest winner for me, week 2, the Commanders. They look awesome. They have a ton of momentum going into some big matchups over the next 6 weeks. What we're looking at is the Bills at home. So that could be an exciting one. They have to go to Philly, which is going to be tough, but they took one from Philly last year, so they can certainly do it this year. They play the Bears, just talked about them. Certainly think they win there. They go to the Falcons, they go to the Giants, and then they play Philly at home. So, excuse me. Really excited about them. I think they can actually make, I think they can do well and take half of those games. I think if they take half of those games, they will be sitting pretty for the rest of the season. And bettors who got Commanders over 6.5 wins at the beginning of the season are certainly smiling year to year right now. So love that team. I'm excited for them and excited to watch them grow and progress throughout the season. My next biggest loser, my goodness, it has to be the Bengals. They look awful on offense. They just paid Joe Burrow handsomely, and they only have 1 total touchdown on the year. I mean, this is bad. They are 31st overall in total points, 32nd overall in total yards, 31st overall in total passing yards. I mean, not good. 25th overall in offensive EPA, horrible. So this is not what we expected from this Bengals team. They dropped one to the Ravens, and now it's looking bleak because Joe Burrow apparently re-aggravated his calf. So they may be without their star quarterback for the next couple of weeks. I think Jake Browning is the next guy up. But man, as they enter, the next few games of their schedule, they got to get something going. They have Los Angeles Monday Night Football. The Rams look good. I mean, they can certainly take this one against the Bengals. They go to Tennessee, they go to Arizona, and then they play Seattle, and then they have a bye. So I think that the Bengals have a solid enough team to scrape by with a couple wins out of that stretch before the bye week and then get Joe Burrow healthy. But with the way that they played with Joe Burrow the first 2 weeks of the season, I can't be confident. Nobody can be. For a team who tied with the highest win total coming into this season, they already dropped the first two with Joe Burrow, and now they might have to play the next few games without Joe Burrow. Certainly not good. And this division, man, the reason I have them, well, obviously they're a loser, but, arguably they could be the top loser on this board because of the injury and because this division is so competitive that with them sitting 0-2, with them struggling the next few weeks, it seems like there's no guarantee that they're going to, be able to finish at the top of this division. I don't see it. I mean, you have a Ravens team that they just lost to, a Browns team, and Steelers just played last night. Steelers actually came out on top. I certainly think the Browns can be better, but they already lost 2 games to division opponents. This is going to be tough for the Bengals to scrape by. I mean, at this point, bye-bye first seed in the playoffs. They're going to be fighting to have a mid seed. I just don't see them getting back to form anytime soon due to the nature of how things are right now. If I'm Zach Taylor, I am sitting Joe Burrow until that bye week and just really hoping that we, pull 1 or 2 wins out until the bye week. So, Bengals down tremendously bad. It's just, again, they could arguably be on the top of this list for myself as the biggest overall loser of week 2. But, they kept it close with the Ravens. So that's the reason I have him at 3. Nothing major for Joe Burrow and his injury, it seems like, but re-aggravation doesn't help nonetheless. All right. Another winner I had from NFL Week 2, the Seahawks. Man, great win for them at the Lions Dome. I, was worried coming out after they lost to the Rams because the Rams defensive roster is one of the worst in the leagues outside of Aaron Donald. If you look at that roster, you wouldn't recognize a single name other than Aaron Donald. But I think that is more, I got to give that credit to Sean McVay because I think a lot of people slept on Sean McVay and his ability to coach teams up. I think that, that was more attributed to that rather than the Seahawks just being bad. Plus, they were shaking off some rust first week of the entire season. I'm putting that aside. I think this win was huge because I know the Detroit Lions are a good team. I think nobody would disagree with me on that. So stealing a win against the Lions at home, showing their offense can fire on all cylinders, and take advantage of a struggling defense. The Lions do have a struggling defense, is really promising. A little scared there when DK Metcalf went down. He did go out briefly, but he came back in. So I love the offensive weapons for the Seahawks. They hung 30 with this team. I think they're only going to improve. I think that Geno Smith just balled. Geno Smith is quite an underrated talent, and I think that he still doesn't get the credit that he deserves ahead of this season just because he is a great QB. He brings so much to the table in terms of playmaking ability, and he is a top 12 QB in EPA margin. That's just those numbers tell us he is good. This isn't just a streak of luck. This isn't just solely due to the fact that his supporting cast is elite, but it is, but with that pair, I expect them to make a run for the division. They lost to the Rams, which sucks, but they can go 1-1. They'll play the Rams again. And then we'll see what they do against the 49ers. But I still believe in this team. I think this win was huge for the morale, for the confidence. Looking at it right now, I have the numbers pulled up. They are 8th overall in offensive EPA margin. That's the Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and hopefully Jackson Smith and Jigba effect. Their defense needs to patch up some holes, but they can be better. They have the personnel, but they just played a Rams offense who's seemingly better than what a lot of people expected, and they just played a Lions offense who's definitely a high caliber offense in the league. So the numbers don't look good. Offensive EPA allowed for the Seahawks is 28th overall. Total yards allowed, 31st overall. Total points per game allowed, 27th overall. So cleaned up a lot on defense, but man, they sure have the offensive ability to keep up with anybody, it seems like. So Seahawks are a big winner for me. They come out healthy, and they're getting ready to step back up into division play. They certainly have a favorable schedule the next few weeks. They play Carolina at home. Then they play Giants at New York. Then they play the Bengals after a bye week, and then they play Arizona. So certainly favorable, and they can actually come out on top above 500 at this point. So I'm a big believer in the Seahawks team. I love their performance against the Lions. They just showed so many positive things on the offensive side of the ball. And I think Geno solidified his status for me as a top 12 quarterback. So love him. Projections, really love the Seahawks. Biggest loser on this list, next one up, Chargers. I can't do this. I can't keep doing this. I've been big on the Chargers every single year that Justin Herbert's been on the team, and they've continuously let me down. This is a big L for Brandon Staley because I think that he is now officially on like the hot seat for this team. I don't think the offense is this issue. They can score points. Kellen Moore is a really, really solid offensive coordinator. I mean, they have the performance, the production that you want to see out of a top tier team in the league. They have the defensive personnel to be a contender, and they just can't get it done. They lost to the Titans, and the Titans, I have to give them credit. Mike Vrabel is absolutely one of the best coaches in the league. He can get his team up for anything, but when your offense performs to the level that it does and you still lose, that's not good, straight up. And I mean, you guys know that. Everybody knows that. And I think this is just a major like morale downgrade for this team because their offense, like they know they can get it going, but if they still can't win in games like that, going up against the Chiefs or other high caliber teams in the AFC, if you can't beat the Titans, who are you going to beat? When your offense performs to the level that they do, they're 5th overall in total points per game, 2nd overall in total yards per game, 3rd overall in offensive EPA margin. I mean, like, what can you ask of Justin Herbert? What more can you ask of him? It's not Justin Herbert's fault. This is a coaching issue. This is a defensive execution issue. This is, Brandon Staley needs to figure out what to do different. This is unacceptable because the Chargers have the pieces to be a Super Bowl contender. You can argue with me all you want, but they do. They absolutely do. Their offensive line is finally really, really good. Their stars, nobody's going to argue with me that they have one of the best star-studded offensive in the league. And Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Quentin Johnson, Josh Palmer, Austin Eckler, Josh Kelly, and of course, Justin Herbert. I mean, with an offensive line that is as good as theirs, there's no reason that they shouldn't hang 30 on every single team from here on out. Their defense needs to get better. J.C. Jackson is struggling mightily, and he was supposed to be one of the top corners in the league over the past few years. So big downgrade for me on the Chargers. I hate it because they were one of my dark horse predictions to contend for the big game. I still believe in them, but man, like this loss was bad. They should have taken advantage of the Titans' abysmal offensive line and executed better on the defensive side of the ball. So, Brandon Staley, you got to be better. straight up. So tough. I love the Chargers, but I have to jump off the wagon. All right, next winner, last winner, Falcons. I know this is bias. If you watched Athletics, you know I am actually a Falcons fan, but I had to put them on the list, man. This feels like the curse might be broken. I don't want to say anything for certain, but like when have you ever seen the Falcons win a game coming from behind? It feels like, they get up and then they always blow the lead. That's always the, talk. I can't stand it. But this Packers team is a good Packers team, and I don't want to discredit them at all, but I like how the Falcons came back from behind. They showed poise. Desmond Ridder showed poise and the ability to get it done when it mattered most. So the Falcons are huge. Huge takeaway for me is the Falcons can get it done. Now, this isn't home. The Falcons do perform better at home. We'll see how they do on the road, but my goodness, Bijan Robinson, however good I thought he was going to be, he exceeds those expectations, hands down. So I would like to see the skill position players outside of Bijan get more involved. But man, like that's a promising win. The Falcons get it done against the Packers, who I think are a very, very good team. They have a solid defense. Their defense isn't as good at away games as it is home games. That might explain their lackluster performance at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. But, man, Desmond Ridder, he's not going to sling the ball everywhere. But, I loved his rushing performance. The numbers don't look great, but if you watch that game, he got it done when it mattered most. There's a couple third and shorts where they lined up to pass, and then he got it done with his legs, which, I didn't really anticipate from him. He wasn't much of a runner out of college, more of just a pure pocket passer. But this team, I love. They've found an identity in running the ball. They have kind of gone against the stigma of the league now, the air raid passing attack. And I think that them starting the year off 2-0 is awesome. I think that this is big time for this team as they start building morale and building on their younger core. Their defense is underrated. They have an elite secondary, it feels like. AJ Terrell is awesome. Awesome. Their defensive line can pick it up a little bit. The pass rush is not where the Falcons would like for it to be, but man, the guys behind in the secondary can get it done. The Falcons' offensive line, dogs. I mean, they're a top 10 unit in the league, hands down. So I'm a big believer in this Falcons team. I think that they have all the pieces to actually win this division. I actually predicted them to win the division. I know that was as a fan, but nonetheless, I just don't see the Saints or the Panthers being strong enough. Maybe the Bucks now, but beforehand, I didn't even see the Bucks. Like, is awesome of a team as they have been with Baker Mayfield leading the helm. So the Bucks may pose more issues than I anticipated, but man, the way this division is shaping up, the Falcons look like they have every opportunity to take it and finish out on top and make the playoffs. Again, I mentioned their defense was an underrated aspect of this game, and I certainly think so. They are third overall in the league in total yards allowed, second overall in total passing yards allowed, tied for eighth in points per game allowed, and eighth overall in offensive EPA allowed. Huge stats from a Falcons team who's usually been lackluster on the defensive side of the ball, but huge winners for me. A lot to be excited about there. Guys, we appreciate you listening in. That wraps it up for me. Make sure to check out the links below. We got a lot going on. We have an app that we're testing that has both NFL and college data. So if you're into that kind of thing, make sure to check it out. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to the page. And we have plenty of other content coming out for the NFL and college football here on YouTube and on Apple and Spotify podcast. So thanks for being here. Talk to you next week.